Hey guys, thanks for listening. This is a quick introduction to one of my favorite interviews. It's a little bit different than my typical interview. It's actually with a lifelong friend, Kim Hampton. She's born and raised in Wilmington, and we've known each other since, I don't even remember. I'm sure we will tell you. We figure it out in the conversation, but since we were very young. And she is a real estate agent, a mother of two, just a phenomenal friend. She's one of my favorite people, and she's so positive and enthusiastic about life. I think we mirror each other in many ways, and I think that's why we're such tried and true friends. Please take a listen. I hope you gain some perspective, and I hope that our enthusiasm rubs off on you this week. You know, life by design, it's a lot more fun when you're optimistic. And Kim Hampton, my lifelong friend, reminds us of that in this conversation. Please join me. And hey, thanks again for listening. Grab your coffee and join me, NICOA, for a caffeinated conversation about life. I'll be talking to people who have chosen to walk their own paths and, just like me, are creating a life by design. I hope it will give you the inspiration you need to do exactly the same. We're getting in there in the line, and this guy in front of me is looking at the cashier. He's not looking at me, but I can tell that he's paying attention to what all our energy.
Yeah.
And then finally kids are there, and I'm facing him, and he was paying so much attention to us, he forgot to give the cashier his coupons. And he goes, I forgot I have all these coupons. And she was like, oh. And then I say to him, ooh, better not forget the coupons. Might get in trouble, huh? And he will not turn and look at me.
It's like, I'm looking at
and he was just like, uh-huh. Well, he wouldn't look at me. And then I didn't say this, but in my head, I wanted to say, it's really freaking you out that I'm talking to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
He would not look at me.
People that do that, they will not, like, because I talk to everybody, and they're like, it's almost like a John Cena moment. You don't see me. Stop talking to me. Stop talking.
So Drew Barrymore definitely gets all up in your business, and she's like, I see you, and I want to be you, and I want to be all in you and know you.
And I'm a touchy-feely person, and but it's almost like sometimes I'm watching it, and I'm a little like, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
But I admire it.
I know. She's very confident.
Yeah, she is. But the one person, I got to find out who it was, because it was in the last 2 weeks on my news feed on TikTok, and the person would not. Like, she was like, she's looking this way, and Drew's like staring at her, like talking in her ear.
I bet Drew afterwards was like, that was a hard one. That was difficult.
I bet Drew wanted to just grab her and hug her.
I bet she did. Look at me. Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to be on the podcast. And
So I'm seriously, I was like, gosh, I'm so flattered.
Well, when I think about all the people in the world, right, and how, and the reason why I do the podcast is that I'm trying to help people help themselves really just find their satisfaction and their fulfillment and their happiness and their peace. And it's not like you're just happy-go-lucky all the time.
Oh, God, no.
But you have an attitude about life that I really admire.
Thank you.
And you give me energy when we're together. And I know you've said I give you energy when we're together.
I do. I love being around people that have like a smile on their face and energy.
I know.
And it's just interesting because I think that I've been through enough counseling to get to know this. And I don't even people like, don't tell me that. I'm like,
oh, no, we talk about it on the podcast, everything.
Yeah.
I say therapy plus coaching.
Yeah.
Or counseling plus coaching equals a life by design.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been through probably like 3 different sets of it. But I remember when I was young, someone telling me, telling me when I was older, but I mean, when I was young, that I created a persona to deal with certain things. And I was trying to, this is probably when I was like 18 or 19 at the time. Huh. And they said, persona is different than a facade. Just like
tell us.
Arrogance is different than confidence. I try to be very confident, but arrogance drives me insane with people. It's like, get over yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you should have confidence.
Sure.
But persona is something, it's almost like a defense mechanism. Mm-hmm. You develop it, you create it to in my opinion, to deal with something that you didn't want to deal with, or to make it go away or make it better. You know?
Is there an example you'd be comfortable sharing where you really had this persona going, but it was not healthy for you? Or
yeah, so whenever I was younger, and I'm just being honest now. I mean, my stepdad. Not now. I love my stepdad now. Love him. He's amazing. I'm talking about the one that legally adopted me when I was 5. So this is my sister's dad. I just, I think when you're growing up, you just don't see certain things. He was he wasn't a good person. And I think my mom it was amazing. I love my mom. She's an amazing, amazing, amazing person. But that was her merit, and I had my sister out of it. But I did not have a good relationship with him. I was treated, to me, this is my opinion, I was always treated like I knew that I wasn't his, And even though he legally adopted me, I knew,
Yeah, you felt that divide between the two of you.
And we fought. I mean, we were old water. I mean, we fought like cats and dogs. Anything he told me I couldn't do, I'd go do the opposite of. Anything he told me not to, it was opposite of everything. I was like, so I remember my first, in counseling, she said, so you created this persona of, and I remember my mom telling me when I was like 3 or 4, do you remember Duffy's Pizza?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Duffy's,
the black and white movie and the player piano and you get sarsaparillas.
So that was the deal. My mom said, she said they had this thing. She said anybody that sings this song gets a free sarsaparilla.
Yeah.
She said, you're the one that jumped up on the table and wants your free sarsaparilla and sing it on the top of your lungs. Now, I cannot sing, so I don't even know why I would do that. But that is not a strength or a talent I have, is singing. But I remember, just certain things. It's very interesting. I remember every single event of my life, every conversation since I was 3 years old, every single one.
Wow.
And the only thing I cannot remember is that car wreck I told you about. I remember driving out of the driveway and waking up in the hospital, but it was a, short, like a brain injury.
Yeah.
But I remember the counselor telling me that. And the counselor also told me that I had what they used to say, this is the 80s.
Right.
80s, late 80s. That I had daddy issues. I was like, I don't have daddy issues. And I'm just going to say it. I told her, I remember saying, I have male authoritative, narcissistic asshole issues is what I have. That's what I have. I have issues with men that feel like they can control you. And I'm just not. And I really appreciate growing up because I came from a very strong line of women. And my mom is very strong. My grandma was very strong, but they're very personal. Like they go do their own thing. Then they do their thing with their man. Then they go do their own thing.
Right.
And
very independent.
Yeah. And I grew up in a very, my mom's side of the family was super loving. I dealt with a lot with my stepdad. I just did not. There's just I don't ever care to see or talk to him.
Right.
And I'm so grateful for my sister out of that.
Yeah.
But I could care less if I ever see that man another day in my life. So.
Well, I think it's an interesting thing to reflect on. And a lot of people have like I mentioned, I had just done this rapid transformational therapy session. It's a hypnotherapy, and you go back to scenes in your past that have caused you to have, trauma or emotional breakdowns in your adulthood. So when you think back on that whole dynamic and learning about this persona that you had to create, I want you to tell me more about that persona, but also what would you say the value was of having all those interactions with your stepdad? Because if everything's happening for us, what did you learn from that?
I just broke it down. Where we go?
Oh my God.
It's okay. It's a pop on. It's fine. It'll go right back on.
Okay.
It's $5. It's popping right back on. But so I'm trying to think what to say. I learned a lot. I learned that it's okay to stand up for yourself. I learned that it's okay to have a voice. It is okay to say you don't like something or somebody. And I was I still remember my mom. She would stand behind my mom, because my mom was trying to tell me because I now don't like confrontation, but I also don't put up with anything. Right. I don't initiate is what I mean. Right. But I remember my mom would say, just, stop arguing with him. I was an arguer.
Yeah.
And I did not know when to be quiet about it. And I would just keep on and on and on. And, but that's one thing I think really, really good came out of that, is that I know when to say something and when not to say something. And I also feel like, I feel like it upsets me when I see people that are bothered by something, but they don't say anything.
Oh yeah.
And now don't get me wrong, there's certain things like I get bothered about now, and it's like, okay, let me see how I can say this the first time, and then if it doesn't get acknowledged the second and third time, then I get more aggravated, and then the crazy Kim comes out. My kids call it psycho mom, where the switches got flipped, and now I'm like way past being brought back.
It is amazing how we'll shift, and we always say, what do you want? How's what you're doing getting you what you want? And if you're not getting what you want, are you willing to try a different way? It's your description of that is very typical, right? You try to be calm, you try to ask for what you want, and you don't get it, and then it starts making you frustrated, and then you get triggered, and you might go catabolic.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think you have also learned, based on what you've shared with me, is that you also know when to not even go there. Yeah. Right? Because it's just, is it worth it? And can I go to a higher vibration and go, wow, isn't that interesting? That person can't show up the way I wish they could. Yeah. And you just move along. You don't even give them your attention and energy. I mean, I think that's a superpower. So I think another thing I learned growing up is I'm very, very close to my family. Like I said, my grandparents have passed away now. I was very close to my grandparents. And my mom is a very strong-willed and very strong person. I don't come from women that are like what I call passive-aggressive docile. Oh, yeah. I don't come from that. So I'm used to the strong women in the family. Yeah. But I'm also used to I grew up with very kind people in my mom's side of the family. I grew up with my mom's side of the family didn't have any money. They were from Leland, and I loved them. I loved being around them. Yeah. I learned so many wonderful lessons and grace and wisdom. I mean, there's so many things my grandparents said. I was like, just certain things. And I'm like, wow. My mom was always there for me. And, like I said, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but my mom was always there for me. Charles. So, and a lot of people, I don't really have anything really to do with him or his side of the family. Yeah. Now, his cousins, I do, that, but my mom's side of the family, we are all very tight. All of us are still super tight. Fortunate. Yeah. I think people sometimes get confused about, well, they're family, and I've got to hang out with them. You don't. But you don't. And just because they're your stepdad, or just because, people married in, doesn't mean that you have to hang out with them or spend time with them. You don't. And that's interesting. I had to learn that with my kids too. And, sometimes they've struggled with their relationships with their father and with me. And, and at one point, right after my divorce from my kid's dad, I was saying to them, well, he's your dad. He's your dad. And they were like, well, right now, I don't want to have that interaction with him anymore. And they don't have to. And they taught me that. They taught me. And I kept trying to facilitate relationships. And I realized that my responsibility was just to my kids. I didn't need to worry about my ex, and he could worry about himself. And, and I don't need to worry about my mom unless she needs me to worry about her. And that's actually been a recent thing, too, as I've moved her here. She's like, hey, I'm getting better. I don't need you to check on me all the time anymore. Yeah. So, it's like this evolution, and it's a fine line between responsibility and relationship. And at the end of the day, you just got to decide what you want. Yeah. It sounds like you have. Yeah. Well, I haven't talked to him in 20-some years, 30-some years. I think it's like 91 or 92. I just remember running into him one day somewhere, and I was like, and he spoke to me, and I was like, okay, next. And so, but I will tell you, you made a very good point on something that reminded me of something. People pleasing is exhausting. I mean, I remember being even 3 or 4 years ago, growing up, being yes. And then I was, in the last 2 years, I've kind of okay, I'll go do this one thing with y'all this weekend, but I need to like this. So a lot of people assume, and it's true, I'm very extroverted, but I have to have introverted time. And people, I don't think if you are not an extrovert, you don't understand that. Truly. They go, but what do you mean you don't want to? I want to go be by myself for a little bit. Oh my gosh. It's the only way I can renew and restore myself. And, over the years.
Give.
I'm constantly giving, especially in the work that I do and the work that you do as a real estate agent and managing that HOA and doing all this work. You are constantly having to be responsive to people and showing up for them and keeping them at the forefront of your mind for the work that you do. But yeah, that can be draining.
Yeah.
How do you manage those boundaries now?
I say no a lot more than I used to.
Say no a lot more. And no is a complete sentence.
No. But it's so funny because I think people it's very strange. I've had people tell me that are friends of mine now that not people I went to high school with or grew up with. I'm talking about like met me. They said without me speaking, just saw me. One, they don't even think I'm from here. They think I'm from like New York or New Jersey. I'm like, why? Why do you think that? But they thought I would be unapproachable. Just visually seeing me. And then they realized I was very, I'm very social. I love people and being around them. But it's like, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I got you. And I was like, and I like going. Yeah. But it got to a point I was like, I'm exhausted. Yeah. And like, I was going from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I'm a 7-8 hour girl sleep. And I'm exhausted. And I enjoy being around people. And I was to a point one time was it the fear of missing out? I was so worried. Yeah, that FOMO. Oh, this is going on. This is going on. And it's like, it's okay. I'll see on Facebook. It's fine. Exactly. But I also enjoy being in the moment. But I don't have to be in the moment 5 times a week anymore. Exactly. I'm fine with 1 day a week or the phone calls and things. Now, I don't like to be isolated. So I still have to have the interaction, whether it's a phone call or a text message. But I think that it's very, I watch a lot of people and everybody has their different personalities. And I've seen a lot of facades too.
Guess what, y'all? I published a book. Your Life by Design, a Coffee with Nicoa self-care coaching journal is now available on Amazon. This interactive journal begins and ends with powerful queries, guiding you on a quest for the kind of life by design you don't need a vacation from. I've included an in-depth look at strategic self-care to empower you and hold you accountable to really getting to know your true self. It's time to prioritize you. Use the link in the show notes to buy yours today.
Not necessarily personas. I've seen a lot of facade, and facades are exhausting. It is exhausting. I mean, it's not who I am.
I've got a friend who worries all the time about what people think, and will even admit it and say, "Well, I can't do that because people will think ABC." And I'm like, "Really? Wow." And it is kind of exhausting, especially with social media presence. And I'm learning too where to be transparent and not be transparent online. Sometimes I want to share everything that's going on to help people help themselves and say, "Oh, Nicoa's going through that. That's great." But sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I'm not talking about anything. I'm just going to go sleep for a week because I'm the same as you. Extroverted, yes, but I think I'm an introverted extrovert.
That's what I said. Like my introverted time is, I want to go sit in a bookstore with a stack of magazines with my cup of coffee and nobody talk to me. Just like you see you.
Let's remember. So I moved back home in 2017.
Yes.
And you are one of the first 2 or 3 people that I ran into after I moved back. And where were we? Barnes and Noble.
That's what people say. They're like, there's Kim's table in the corner. I'm like,
right by the coffee shop.
I'm so bad. Somebody was sitting at my table the other day and kind of you gonna move? Let's pay my table. But I like that. I love drives through the country by myself. But my favorite, you're still interacting with people at the bookstore because you see them, but you don't have to like deal with them.
Right.
But my favorite of all things is when there's a full moon. I'm a moon girl.
Yes.
Full moon over the waterway or the ocean at night just to go sit and watch it come up. That's all. And nobody there. Nobody talked to me. That's like that absorption of connecting back to nature and being grounded.
Yeah.
And I remember taking somebody with me. This was years ago with me, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, you have to go away. They
were horning in on
you're messing up the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
So, this is kind of like a big deal. And then I'll go out to the country. My grandparents are buried out in Winnebago. And it's a beautiful cemetery with a beautiful church with all wood inside and then horses behind it. So, like, I like to go up there by myself. That's my family, I think only a few people have been up there with me. That's kind of one of those moments I like to myself too. So
we've got to find those moments to regroup and reground. And you just described like a summary of what I say strategic self-care is. I mean, you just put it all in one. So something that meant something to you, your personal relationship with your family, going somewhere sacred, and then nature. Being outside, getting your feet in the sand or wherever you are, sitting on the dock. And that's why when you come over, I love you coming over because we just sitting on the deck looking at the water because that's just what grounds me too. That's my soul.
Because I grew up on Mason River Sound too, down on Pelican Point and everything. And I remember my sanctuary then was we were one of the few people that had the in-ground pool in the neighborhood. So I was like, we had the party house, you know. And
did I even go to your pool? I'm sure I did. How many times did you have parties?
Like many pool parties. Like, I remember my 16th birthday party. I still remember this to the day. Remember when nobody believes this, but unless you grew up in the 80s, they existed. The 2-liter Bartles and James. Oh,
I had those 2-liter.
We had a quarter contest, and I remember. I think over 200 people showed up at this party.
I think I was there. Now that you say this,
my mom's car got hit by somebody else. Mitzi hit my mom's car. Sorry, Mitz. Sorry, Mitz. But she hit. I think she backed into my mom. Something happened there, and then there was the next morning. Woke up, and it was me and Liz and Mitzi had all stayed at the house, and we woke up at 7:00 in the morning going, you got to go get all those beer bottles out. I mean, beer cans out of my pool. And it was like,
oh my gosh.
But it was like, what?
It's kind of like that same party that I had in 1987 before we all graduated. I guess it was Ellen Downey's birthday. That was the topic of the party. And then everybody canceled parties like at Hanover and Landy and all showed up here at the house. Yeah, I think there was a fight out in the yard. My parents came home after. They knew we were having a party, and my father pulled me into this bedroom right here. I was standing right here in this office. This is the office. I was standing right by that door, and my dad looked down at me, and now I had been drinking.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. And he said to me, do you know what's going on out there?
No. What? Tell me.
What's going on? I was like, there's a lot of people.
And they're probably parked all the way up that road.
God. He said they turned on the road and they thought, somebody's having a party at this end of the road too. There was so many people. And now
fun.
It was so much fun. I have such great pride, but it took me until probably my parents were in their 70s and I was probably in my 40s before I could look them in the eye about the topic. I'm just saying. I, of course, loved the party, and I'm proud of the party, but I'm also ashamed, and, I had to clean up. And things were broken, and the plants were trampled.
But it was memorable.
It was so memorable. And
it was so fun.
I was stalking you on Facebook this morning and looking back to see if, did you
I stalk people, too. It's okay. I love stalking.
Well, that's
the PI in me.
It is the PI, which we're going to talk about that. But I noticed, where'd you go to middle school? Did you go to Noble?
No, I was at Rolling Rice.
Oh, you and I have known each other 43 years.
Yeah, we have been, I'll start saying since.
Did you go to Winter Park?
No, I went to, I went to Winter Park for 1 year, and then I got transferred to Blair. And I went to Blair, and then remember, that's when we used to have 5th and 6th.
That's
7th,
right.
8th, and 9th.
I went to Towston for 5th and 6th.
Yes. No.
So we were at Towston.
We have been friends since 6th grade.
Oh, since 5th grade.
Well, I went there, because my mom and they moved from... that's when we got our house on the Sound.
Okay, yeah.
And so I started Towston half of 5th grade. I was at Dudley for half of 5th grade. It was the worst experience of my life. It was where my bully came from, my childhood bully.
You had a bully?
I did have a childhood bully. I will not say her name, but to this day, I remember every single word she said to me. I remember her name. I remember the bus number.
How did that affect you? How did that impact you in your life?
It was, I remember, because I was 10, and I had let's just go there. Okay,
go there.
I had a huge overbite. I had this girl wore braces and headgear.
16 candles. Okay. Damn, Mom, I got my headgear.
Here's what I need y'all to go watch. Go watch Katy Perry's Last Friday Night video. That was me in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Oh,
she has the headgear on, the braces, the whole thing.
We're going to put that link in the.
Oh my gosh, it's like she goes from this to this, like, and then goes back, and then she wakes up with the headgear and everything. Oh, it's crazy.
So
funny. I had I don't remember. I think I got my braces in 11th grade because I didn't have them my 9th grade year, so it was like 6th, 7th, 8th. I was so braces. It was. I had. I was chunky. I was starting to develop a little.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have any friends. I was a tomboy at the time. And I remember not being able to see very well, so I thought I was going to have to get like, it was just, it was just all the things.
Yeah.
Well, I had really no friends at that time. I had some tomboy friends on the road. At the time, we lived in Kings Grant.
Mm-hmm.
And so we lived in Kings Grant and really didn't like anybody. And she, for some reason, just attached to me. Like attached to me. And her and one other girl picked on me, and they would get in my face, and they would like push me on the bus, and it was just like,
what the?
And I remember one day, I'll never forget this day, they showed up at my house, and they said my stepdad answered the door. Charles, not the one I love now. Right. And not Chris, but Charles answered the door, and I remember kind of standing behind him, and they didn't see me, and they were like, "Oh, we want Kim to come out and play softball with us." I was like, "No, they don't." Mm-mm. They were looking to beat my butt, is what they were doing, and they were just so mean. And I remember, I never knew why.
Yeah, I don't know.
And to this day, it bothers me so bad when I see somebody just like. I cannot deal with it. Like picking on somebody,
of course, being
mean. You just like, I'm a girl's girl. So like, I'm like, well, there's room for one more. As long as you're not drama and toxic, there's room for you. as long as you're not crazy, drama and toxic, we're good. But I remember like a few weeks later, my parents told me we were moving, and we had been building this house on the Sound. And I remember walking into to Charleston, and it was Miss Brown. Because then I got moved to Miss Galloway for. We were in Miss Galloway together. We were in Galloway, so that's right. Yeah. So I got moved because Miss Brown was. I couldn't deal with her either, and that's how I met. I remember Caroline Filippini, the first person I met
Caroline,
there. Yeah, and so we And I just remember walking in, people were nice to me and tried to make friends with me. And literally all the people that I was friends with from 6th grade to high school is where I met at Charleston.
Yeah.
I mean, I met new people like Liz Fisher and all that.
God, but I mean,
Liz. Liz is like,
she's the best.
I love Liz. And
everybody
truly
loves
like to the day I die, like truly one of my best friends ever. And we were like besties for like years.
Yeah.
Like, they were always together. And I just remember thinking like, I just remember sitting there going, I don't understand. Why was she so mean to me?
Well, let's think about it. So the value again, you are a strong woman with a strong voice and you stand up for others. I really do believe that these things happen for us. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine how painful that must have been for you though, and how traumatizing it was.
And she would get in my face and the bus.
How horrifying.
And it was horrible. And I think between the growing up things and then the bully phase and then the, you go through certain relationships. And it's just like, there's certain things I pick my battles on what I say and how I say it and when I say it.
Yeah.
But I feel like everything I went through made me so much stronger.
Sure.
And been able to help other people with certain situations. And girl, I can pick out a narcissist 7 miles away now. Like, stay away from that red flag. You remember that like meme that says, it says therapist. You saw the red flags, right?
Right.
And then the person says, I thought it was a carnival. I'm down for the carnival. And I always say the carnivals are so pretty and awesome and beautiful from the outside and the shit show inside. That's what they are.
That makes me think of this phrase I often use, like when I quit my corporate job and then started all this stuff that I was doing, trying to make money and started a company and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? Same circus, different tent.
Mm-hmm. It's different
carnival with a shit show inside.
Yeah. I started using not my ocean, not my mermaids. I just don't even care.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I always feel like there's just so many things in life that happen to you that put you to where you are now. And I remember discussing some of the things with one of my girlfriends. And I don't always share everything, but it's like they know where I'm going with it. And I call it my circle back. Let's circle back to that. But everything that I went through, I realized I could have been bitter and pissed off And why? Why? And I think a lot of people do have victim mentality, but it's also because they haven't learned how to adjust to things or learn how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And everybody still has triggers. I think anything that ever traumatic happened to you, you have a trigger, something happens, you're like, oh, and you just got to learn how to deal with it. I chose I was so fortunate to have such a great family to be raised by that I learned that real quick. I mean, my uncles I could pick up the phone, like my uncles, my cousins, like, I mean, we're just all,
you have the support.
I had the support.
The community, the connection.
Yes.
And you foster that. And I want to highlight that. So you reach out to friends. You reach out to family.
I'm an initiator
You're an initiator on that. And I think that's really important. People sometimes sit around because they may not be as bitter, but they feel victim, like, well, nobody's calling me. Well, they didn't invite me. Exactly.
I remember telling one of my friends one that a long time ago. I was like, okay, but I remember somebody telling me about a year ago, it was a guy friend of mine, and he said the most powerful thing, and it stuck to me. He said he was going to stop initiating to see who reaches out to him. And that was so powerful to me. I was like, wow, I wonder who would, if I stopped initiating, how long would it take for them to reach out to me?
Have you tried that before?
I did. And there's a few people that I really, it's not that we're not friends anymore. We are friends.
Yeah.
But it's just a season we don't communicate and hang out. How's that?
You know, I think that's really been a big lesson for me too, because I will second guess my whole life by design. You own it. You make the party. I mean, I've been creating the parties since I was little. Because I didn't want to sit still quiet in this house.
Yeah.
And I can remember coming home from high school I loved school. I loved y'all. I loved being in high school, and I just engaged.
I don't think it's anything like it is now. Nothing.
I just tried to do all the things, but that was to avoid kind of the drama I was experiencing at home, which as a latchkey kid, divorced parents, lots of arguing, lots going on. And I would get home, and I wouldn't be here an hour and a half. I'd be on the phone calling y'all. What's going on tonight? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And so I realized that was a theme throughout my life. And that's where Life by Design came from. But to your point, over the last 5 to 10 years, I've started sitting back. And you're right. Sometimes people don't show up. But I think it's because we vibrate at a frequency that either attracts that type of attention, like I have to be able to receive in order for someone to magnetically come to me. And if I'm always the one asserting and setting it up, they don't think I want to receive.
Or they're intimidated by it.
That happens with me a lot.
And again, confidence and arrogance. There's a lot of things that, believe it or not, I'm very insecure about.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of insecurities about things. But I have a lot of confidence based on everything I dealt with that I gosh, I got out of that. Oh, I got myself out of that. I helped somebody else with that same situation. I remember the conversation we had about the toxic ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
But
Voldemort. Don't say his name.
Don't say his name. But anyway, so I recognized those signs in someone else.
Yep.
And she was quiet about it. And I walked up to her one day and I just said, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "You don't have to say anything, but I feel." And she was where I was. She was isolating because of certain situations.
So you felt like in her relationship, she was being held back and
yeah. And I just think that there was more to the story and nobody else recognized it. And I think that's what I'm saying. You go through certain things and you not only have you helped yourself with it,
but you're going to help somebody else.
Help somebody else with it, because somebody helped me at one time, and then somebody else did.
Right.
So there's, I always feel like I might be here, but you may be here that you can help where I'm at this phase here, but I'm at this phase and I can help this person down here where I was at that phase. I
agree with you. I feel like that I'm always a few steps ahead sometimes, and I think, damn it, universe, why do I have to be the one that has to go through that first? Not that I am, but you know what I mean? But then I'm like, well, that's part of your role. That's part of your purpose.
But the biggest thing I've come out of is, like, I was talking to one of my girlfriends the other day, and I was like, a lot of people assume I have all these friends. I do have a lot of people that I like to be around and talk to and stuff like that. But I enjoy interaction with other people. But I also realize everybody can't know your business.
Well, that's true.
Everybody, and I remember somebody told me one time, like, oh, you tell everybody anything. I was like, yeah. I was like, no, I have my heart on my sleeve. There's nothing anybody knows that I didn't want them to know.
For sure.
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, well, you have boundaries.
We all have secrets.
Sometimes we're transparent.
What was it that Eddie Murphy said? He's like, some of us have graveyards.
Some of us have secrets.
Yeah, he's like, you open a closet, a bone's going to fall off. He's like, it's a whole graveyard.
We all have graveyards in some form or fashion. Fine. But, I think that the ultimate goal for every human is to connect.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, those of us who are extroverted and talk to think, right?
Yeah.
We do get very transparent. And I think maybe we shouldn't be too afraid of that. I think it's okay.
It's fine.
It is. I think truthfulness is important, and more people are being truthful today than ever before.
Yeah,
and really speaking their truth at work and speaking their truth with their partners. And I have clients that come to me and they're like, "Well, I wish I could have said blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "Well, why didn't you?"
Yeah.
And then that helps when you can answer that question. Yeah. Then that's an opportunity to heal for you.
Yeah.
Because you're like, because I was afraid of this and I was afraid of that, or I thought they might think this, or I thought that. So I'm glad that you're transparent and you wear your heart on your sleeve, and it makes me really love you even more.
Well, I thank you.
I know.
Don't get me right. I didn't have on the waterproof mascara. But I just, but I do remember growing up with being around other people, watching other people.
Yep.
And I can't answer for them or tell them that you can't do that. I'm just saying I'm answering for me. I see so many people that are angry or bitter. Mm-hmm. Now, there's things I'm angry and bitter about.
Sure.
But I remember one of the things my grandma said to me. She's like, you can be mad, you can be angry, you can be pissed off, you can be bitter, you can be all the things. Just don't stay there. And that has always stuck with me. And I tell my girlfriends all the time, like, I just need to vent, and I'm going to be mad for about a day or 24 hours or 36 hours. And then it's like, okay. But it's like I don't stay bitter and angry over 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 50 years ago. I just don't.
Life's too short.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not a big traveler. I'm terrified of planes. We're talk about that another day.
Oh, we have to do an RTT session on that.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh. So I'll tell you.
Why are you terrified of planes?
I'm terrified of planes. I will tell you this. I am scared of no one. I'm not scared of anybody. Now, I don't go do stupid stuff. I ain't hanging out at places at 4 a.m. or walking down alleys by myself. I am not scared of anybody. I hope nobody sees it like, oh, we got her now. I am terrified of snakes. I can't look at a book that has them on it. I can't watch TV. I can't go in a zoo and see them out of the corner of my eye. Terrifying.
So Snakes on a Plane was definitely not your movie.
Yeah, somebody was like, let's watch this movie one time. I was like, absolutely not. Like, I will be in therapy for years now if I watch Snakes on a Plane. And I was like, and I'm just like, look at the goose, like,
oh my gosh, like, oh my God, y'all. I just touched her arm.
Like, I'm cold and goosebumps. Like, don't even make me think about it. And so I'm not scared of anybody or anything, but I realized that fear holds us back on a lot of things. Yeah. Here's my biggest thing. And I have been, like I said, I've been through enough therapy to realize it. Yeah. Like what I know and what I don't know. And I think that's a lot of problems too, is people don't realize what the problem is. I know what the problem is. Yeah. I know where the problems lie. And biggest weakness I have, I procrastinate what I fear. I know it 100%. You tell me to go do my taxes and my whole blood drains out of my face. It's like, I mean, there was years extension. And then it was like, oh gosh, I'm going to polish.
Yeah.
All right, CPA, fix that. You know, and it wasn't anything bad. It was just like, and then I made it worse by procrastinating.
Of course. Have you tried to address that fear in the recent years? Are you working through that, or is that something that just kind of hangs out there and you'd rather not deal with it?
It took me about 3 years ago to realize that's what I do. Mm-hmm. So now, since I've acknowledged it, now I'm trying to make action on it. Okay. Because I remember my grandmother telling me that too. And they were like, you can acknowledge something all day long. Some people acknowledge nothing. We all know those people. Mm-hmm. It's always someone else's fault. It's a deflection all day long. You can acknowledge it. That's one of two parts, but you do have to take the action on the acknowledgement. And certain things, I'm still working on that.
What kind of dialogue do you have with yourself in order to move through those moments? I mean, I can relate to that, the relationship with money and fear. And
money's probably my biggest.
I'm really grateful how far I've come, but I still have to breathe through financial obligation that becomes we have a big tax bill this year that I did not see coming. A big one. And I was like, oh, that's my
Hooters
fault.
hiring? Because we could go. I'm all about some Hooters. I can go for Hooters. Cheetah Club's still open too.
Oh my God. I wish y'all.
So let me tell you something.
This is why I love my friend Kim. Because you never know what the F is going to come out her mouth.
Somebody told me something the other day. We were talking about a closing. I said, well, if the closing don't happen, I said, Hooters is still hiring, Cheetah Club's still open. I said, Castle Street ain't like it used to be. And I started laughing. They looked at me like, is she serious? I'm like,
Castle Street's all hipster now.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
So what is that dialogue? Let's put a bow on that.
The dialogue in my head now is, okay, tax season's up, right? So really just that. Okay, Kim, you procrastinated it before. What was the consequence of that procrastination? Fees, interest charges, my anxiety.
Your anxiety.
My anxiety.
That's the biggest one to me.
And I'm not a high anxiety person, but I'm not the most whatever life goes on. I got to be honest with you. Taxes. I remember one year the whole tax thing, and I remember watching Medea goes to jail about the same time. I was like, I would not do well in jail. I don't do good in stripes, orange, or isolation. I hate isolation. And so, and it was the scene where Sophia Vergara, I was like, at least get somebody back on fun. I was terrified. I was like, they're going to come get me. I'm like, they're just fix it. I'm going to just fix it. But no, those are the crazy things we tell ourselves. Like, you're not going to go to jail over that. But it's like, oh my gosh. Like the fear.
You played out the scenario of what could happen, which does cause that is the root
anxiety.
Fear. It's like, people, oh my God, if I don't have this money, I'm going to become a bag lady and live on the side of the road.
And how do I pay you? What do you want me to do?
What's the likelihood of those things happening? Pretty small, right?
They don't want my money. They don't want me.
But that's great that you talk about it, because you look at the cost. Yeah. And I've often asked that question to a client. What is the cost to you? Yeah. And I'm really grateful that your grandmama said that. It's not that you go there. I say this all the time. Not that you go there. It's how long do you stay there? Yeah. And are you willing to do something about it? And you have been. So are you feeling better about your relationship with that now?
I do feel better about it. I feel like I'm not really, like I said, everybody can be bitter and angry for the day. I'm like, oh, stupid people. Right. But I also feel like I'm so grateful that I don't hold on to it too long. Like, I can still complain. I come on like, Mom, And it's like, I listen to my other friends that are just like, or older friends, or I think of people in general, and they're like, I listen to it sometimes just in a coffee shop. And it's like, and I can tell the difference if they're venting about a situation, but and I'm not saying this about anybody in particular, I'm just throwing it out there in general. I remember being in a coffee shop one day, and I heard somebody say, I could tell they had no financial issues, none. And this man was like the most angry, bitter person on the face of the earth. Like, what were we looking out? Look, like, you got it made? What are you talking about? Like, but that was the thing that my biggest fear is financial insecurities. Like, those are mine. So it wasn't his.
You were projecting it.
I was projecting it back to like how that affected me. Right. But then I sat there and listened for a while, and then I realized his wife died about a year ago. So he had someone that took care of him, and now he's stuck in this world of taking care of himself. Oh, so naturally. So he's angry and bitter.
Yeah, angry and bitter. Yeah. And sad and resentful and afraid and scared and all the fear, right? Yeah. One thing that brings up for me is we're either coming from a space of fear or we're coming from a space of love. I always look at it that way. It's either fear or love. Either love for ourselves or fear for ourselves or love for another or fear for another. Yeah. And you really have to observe yourself and say, what's going to best serve me here? Yeah. It sounds like you've really fine-tuned it over the years.
I'm still working on it.
I want to do an RTT session so you can get on an airplane and go somewhere exciting.
Well, let me tell you what happened. This is a crazy thing. Okay, so again, snakes on a plane.
Yep.
Do not be sending anything in my mail. I will hunt you down. I will find you. I always tell my girlfriends, I have me and this one other girlfriend, like, we can find anything. I said, we should have been PIs. Like, that's what we should have been.
I will mention to everybody, Kim, so you have a criminal justice degree. And then
criminal justice and forensics.
And forensics. And then you went and did that 11-week course with the local sheriff's department or something?
Can I tell you? It's the Citizens Academy.
Yeah.
And with the sheriff's department, they do it twice a year. Can I say high five to that program? And a lot of like older people go just because they want to see what's going on in the community.
It's so interesting.
I'm like this all week going, do I have to leave? Like, can I just stay here? Can I work here, please?
I tell you, I still think it's not too late for you to go get some sort of job in that world. Like, maybe you should be a private investigator. Yeah. She's a real estate agent and does all the things in the area. But let me say, that is your expertise and love.
Yeah. So I have two major passions. And I love real estate. Like, I love, like, oh, let's go look at houses. Let's go look. Yeah. Like, I love that. And somebody being in the house that they love. And I always told somebody, your house could be a lot with a shed on it, or it could be 1 million square foot, but it's what makes you happy. Yeah. It's your home. And I think that's what matters to me is like, I've lived in everything. Yeah. And it's just what you make home. I agree. And so that's what I love about real estate. It's not, the money's nice, but it's not, at the end of the day, if you're only transactional, that's going to get you in the end. You need to be helping people find they're happy. Yeah. And that's why I try to be more relationable. Is that a word? I don't know. I don't know. Relationable. I like relatable. Okay, whatever.
You like to foster relationships.
Yeah. And so I told somebody one time, I could always be busier, but I'd rather have, I'm just throwing a number out. Like, I'd rather have this many transactions that I know the people and I did what I was supposed to do than this many. And I don't even like who was the person? And who are you talking about? Like,
No, you create relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but when I was a little girl, my mom said she bought me a Grey's Anatomy book. I want to be a doctor. Okay. And then I realized you have to go to school for a really long time.
Never mind.
And I'm more the social person in school. So, I love criminal justice too. Like, I mean, not so much. One of my ex-husbands was a police officer. Okay. My uncle was a judge, and then John is an assistant DA now. So I have a lot of law, legal people in the family.
John's your son,
my oldest son. Yeah,
and you have two sons, right?
Two. Yeah. And then Nicholas is out running the world on his own little entrepreneurship things. They're
so handsome and amazing. Yeah, I was stalking them on your Facebook.
They are so. I love them so much. And Nicholas is He's the one that still lives with me. He's 22. And then John is in Washington.
Oh, right. And Pippa's over there in Washington.
Yeah. So that's like, they love it. And they're doing their thing. And, but John has more of my personality and Nicholas has more of like just a different personality. But
so you've had the forensics world, the criminal world has been a big part of your life.
Yeah. And I love it. And I remember being in school going, oh my God, I didn't necessarily ever want to be a traffic, like on the street. Yeah. I said, what would that be like? Passenger patrol? I don't know. Passenger patrol. I said, I'm more of like, I always wanted to be CSI, PI, detective. And I remember my ex-husband, which is John's dad, he's like, back then, I don't think it's different now, but back then he's like, you can't just be, you got to go here first. You got to do this first, and then you move up. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. I just want to do this. And so, and then I got into, and then I got pregnant with John my last year in college. And so then it just kind of, then Dad was on the street. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stay home and I'm going to do the things to take care of the kids. Yeah. And so that kind of just evolved into something else.
Do you regret that in any way, shape, or form? Like, do you wish that you'd continued down the path of forensic
I thought about this the other day. I was talking to somebody and I was like, there's been a lot of bad choices or bad things that happened to people. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot from it. I grew a lot, and I really have zero regrets. I will say, I always believed this, whatever time this is, puts you to here, and what happens here so you're where you're supposed to be.
I agree.
For your life at the point, I would say there are certain situations I might not have changed what happened, but I would have changed the length of time I stayed in it.
Sure.
Just a time frame. But then again, I wouldn't be where I'm at now.
You wouldn't have gained the value of that experience.
Going back, I remember going to the Citizens Academy, and I was talking to the sheriff, and I knew him when he was a deputy. Yeah. So I try to still say sheriff, because I usually call him by his first name. I'm like, oh, but I know he's a sheriff now. And he was like, oh gosh, we have people in their 60s go through BLET. And I was just looking at him, I was like, I'm not really a BLET person, because
what does that stand for?
Basic law enforcement training.
Okay,
but that's what you have to take to go on the street.
Basic law enforcement training. I said,
sure, it's just not like a civilian
Isn't there
CSI job. There's something. And actually, they have civilian jobs in that now. So, but they are so far between. Like, And now I'm like, gosh, if I could just get in there, you know.
Well, why don't you try? I mean, I really think about, you know this all about life by design.
I know.
And going out, go do one thing. What would one thing you could do today to move you closer to knowing how to get in there? Yeah. What's one thing? Any ideas?
I know people to pick up the phone and make a phone call to.
That's all you got to do.
Because a lot of times, by the time it's literally listed, it's already been entered.
Well, what's holding you back?
Let's see. Again, I procrastinate what I procrastinate what I fear. And I fear, my biggest fear is I've never needed to make a ton of money. I didn't grow up that way. I grew up that, like, I'm happy when things are taken care of and I can kind of go do something I want to do. My biggest fear is I do not ever want to be struggling financially again.
So your assumption is it black or white that you would have to stop doing what you're doing and only do that? Is that what your thought is?
Well, like in that job, like real estate, you can always do real estate. Like that's like 90%, honestly, 90% of my deals are literally online now, or they're after work, before work, or on the weekend anyway. So it's not like it's during a work day.
Right. Because you're still doing the HOA work. That's your big income.
That's the income,
Right.
But that integrates very well with real estate, because you're running the real estate office, so it's already all together. It's all together, and I love real estate because it's like you get to help people. And I'm going to tell you something. It's like it's quick, and it's you don't know what's going to happen, but there's a part of me that loves a little bit of like a little bit of risk, but there's a large part of me that loves security. So
that's the biggest block. So what if, though, you could figure that out?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to work on.
And the only way we can figure it out is if we start moving towards it.
Yeah. And that was my biggest thing, is like, what if, okay, so I remember, it was like, I think 2011, my second husband and I got separated. And I remember telling these people this because it's not a victim thing, it's a help thing. And it helps me remember. I remember at the time not having any money. Mm-hmm. I remember like having $2 in my checking account. Mm. And I moved in with my parents with 2 kids. And I'm so grateful I had family to I need help. So many people don't have anybody to help them. No one. So I'm very grateful for that. But I just remember that being a year that was, it wasn't, so many people would have been like, oh gosh, I couldn't have got through that year. But it was like, so many things happened that year. I got separated, moved in with my parents. Real estate went downhill that year. Like, I was like, whoosh, you know.
And how old were the boys at the time?
2011. Don't make me add.
They were young.
2011, you know, like 13 years ago.
Yeah, they were young.
I know John was in either at Noble or Laney.
So
Nick was in elementary school.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 deaths in the family. 13-year-old dog died. Like, it was all within 6 months. Like, it was like, and so many people would be like, oh my gosh, that's so, but then I was like, yeah, it was a lot, but I got through it, and we all got through it, and there's so many lessons learned in it.
And you're resilient.
Where some people would have just shut down completely. Yep. And I do remember 2 distinct days in my life, sitting in a room, and very distinctly remember these 2 days. All the blinds were shut, and laying in my bed going, oh my gosh, this is what depression feels like. And I remember, for me, it was only 24 hours. Like I said, it's the 24, 36 hour thing. And I'm like, all right, I'm done now. And then I needed that. And I shut all the blinds, turned off every light in the house, and just laid in my bed. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, all I could think of was how bad I felt for somebody who really had to deal with that all the time. Yeah. And I remember getting up and saying, absolutely not. Slung all the blinds open. And I was like, this could be so much worse. This could be so much worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
you put it in perspective.
So I just did it that way. For somebody else, it could have been the end of the world to them. But I also realized every bad thing I've ever been in a position to experience, or negative, it doesn't have to be bad, it could be negative. There's always somebody dealing with something so much worse than I'm dealing with. So
putting it in perspective like that is a really good way to motivate people to move. And I'm glad you did. And plus, light. Mm-hmm. If we can bring light to the darkness, that's really what you did, literally.
Yeah.
And I tell people, if you're feeling down, if you want to lay in the bed and cry for a while, that's fine.
Just don't stay there.
Just don't stay there. And stay there as long as it's serving you. Mm-hmm. But you have to ask that question. You have to have that conversation with yourself. And do you need help? And can you ask for help? And the powerful thing to remember here is that the conversation you were having with yourself was the powerful piece. Yeah. Because you changed the story. You had a story. You realize, oh my gosh, this is what this feels like. And then you change the story. So, you know what? I don't want this story anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say something different. Yeah. And no, not me. Yeah. So, remember, everybody, you're the creator of the words.
Yeah, you are.
You are.
And there's also been a time where I had to figure out. Like, hi.
Okay. Hey.
I had to figure out.
We're looking at the camera.
Yeah, we are, just to make sure the good angles are there. Yeah. So I had to figure out, okay, you've got a story. And to some people, you remember how you can't choose how people respond or receive what you're saying? I've had to be aware of other people's, some people don't care. I'm very aware of like, oh, I might have said, or I can tell that that's bothering them or something, or they're not interested anymore. That's fine. But I've had a fine line sometimes of speaking the truth or a story about something, and then some people perceiving it as I wasn't over something, or I was playing. I was like, no, I'm telling you because one, it's helping me heal, but two, I can tell it's bothering somebody else that like, listen, or they're having a situation and it's like, wait, let me tell you what happened so you know you're not alone. Right. And I realized this is the same story. This is exactly what happened. Yeah. And I went through it. So there's a fine line sometimes because some people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Or like,
well, and ultimately, and you do this all the time, is you let go of what they think of you. Yeah. Because you know your intention with the story. And I loved what you said. It might be helping me heal to share that story with you. And I find that I talk to think and I talk to heal. Yeah. And actually, I'm going to say that from now on. I talk to heal.
That needs to be on a tank top.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be on a tank top.
Everything needs to be on a
black tank top.
I thought you said TED Talk. And I was like, that too.
TED Talk?
A TED Talk is pretty amazing, right? We could both do a TED Talk. I wish you could do a tag team TED Talk. That's what we would do.
Tag team, back again.
Yeah. So, anyway, you kind of like speaking my language. No wonder we like each other so much, you know? And
I've talked to people, and I find it fascinating what other people's stories are, too. But I've also met people, it's like, they are still in that victim mentality all the time. And it's like, they don't realize how blessed they really are.
Life is just so amazing, and you can actually just, if you can appreciate the experiences when you are a victim to something, because we all are at some point in time.
We've all had something,
appreciate that you're simply having an experience. And then why is that experience happening for you, not to you?
Yeah, and like, what are we going to do about it? What are we learning from it?
And then letting go of how people react. And some people listen to this are like, we know all this shit. And I'm like, but you're still having the moments. So go tell somebody else or share this with somebody that needs to hear it.
Exactly.
You and I can obviously have a caffeinated conversation for the rest of the day.
I can have caffeinated conversations all day long.
Me too.
I'm like all about the caffeinated. I was going to tell you.
So tell me some things you were thinking before, so we can put a bow on our conversation.
I did.
Y'all, she took notes. I'm just saying.
I'm a note
She prepared.
I was the nerd in school, and then I talked to everybody about it.
She did more homework about this conversation than I did. I'm just looking at her on Facebook
again. All that. We actually really talked about everything. But I think a lot of people are very, like when they want to get to know you, I think, and I'm okay with it, people have false expectations of you or
assumptions
of you. And I'm like, it's okay. But I remember 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I've been like, oh my gosh, my people pleasing.
Oh, right.
Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm still a people pleaser, but I've realized now I'm done. I just don't even, it's like, I'm never rude to anybody. I just don't understand rudeness to people. I'm not talking about somebody that's done something, you're like, in your face. I'm talking about why are you being condescending? That is the one thing I'm talking about Teresa Giudice flip a table. If you condescend me or call me stupid, I'm like,
that's a trigger.
I will flip switch. I will go psycho on you.
So what if you didn't?
Well, the last person that did that, I was like, I have nothing else to do with you.
Yeah.
Do not call me.
Yeah.
Do not email me. Do not talk to me.
So you set your boundary.
Yeah. But I mean, when I hung up, the other person could see. But it was because...
that's because we get triggered, and you had a bully. I mean, if you really look back,
I had a bully.
You can take those seeds from your past, and you can look at your triggers and reactions from today. We always can see the connection.
Yeah.
We always can see the connection.
And I know them, and you have some people like, oh, I don't know where that came from. Like, I know where it came from.
And I don't even want people to take... I don't want to give them that energy anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have time for that. And my vibration now is much higher, where I can actually appreciate someone's condescending nature and say, wow, isn't that interesting that you feel so insecure that you need to speak that way to me?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It's like, I realize that's your insecurity and that's your problem, not my problem. But I think that comes from this. It's like, I knew when I was growing up, I was very extroverted. Really didn't care about the grade. I was very smart. Like, my book smart, I was very smart. I could pass the test. I just didn't care.
Yeah,
I just wanted to get through school and get my degree and be done with it and party. That's all I wanted to do.
I still think to this day that Mr. G, you remember
Mr. Gerganis?
Yeah. I think that he passed me in trig.
Yeah.
I don't think I deserved to pass that class.
I'm pretty sure I didn't deserve to pass what is it? What is the other one? What's the other one? Geometry. And algebra? I've never to this day used algebra.
We are not math girls over here. I'm just saying.
I told somebody one time, I know what my weaknesses are and my strengths, and math is not. No. I mean, I'm dyslexic because...
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
As with numbers. It's never been with letters. It's with numbers. But the one thing I always get right is my commission check. I'm like, that is not right.
Kim, I love you so much.
I love you.
What is your number one piece of advice for everybody? What, like, your mantra?
Besides stay fabulous.
Yeah, that's right.
Stay fabulous.
Stay fabulous, baby.
Stay fabulous, y'all. But it is not. You're not going to be fabulous all the time. There are times I'm like, girl, you crazy right now? Like, what? You're not even in your own head right now. But it's more of like, when I say stay fabulous, there's so many things that you could be so angry, bitter, and pissed off about, and like not a nice person about. And we all have those moments. I don't care what anybody says or how fabulous you want to be. I'm saying, like, life is so good. And like I said, I don't really do a lot. I don't travel the world. I travel through town. My idea of travel is to Myrtle Beach and back.
Oh, my God.
I
You posted once. I have got to tell this story. I wasn't even back in Wilmington. I was in Raleigh, and I'm on Facebook, and you posted that you were putting on these fancy shoes in your outfit, and you're like, I'm getting ready to go to L.A. today. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. How long are you going to be in L.A.? And
a day?
Kim replied back to me, and she was like, NICOA, Leland area, L.A. And
do you
Leland,
not know? I don't travel. I don't travel.
Seriously. So, y'all, Leland is across the bridge.
Yeah,
from Wilmington.
it's like 10 minutes over that way. But I mean, I've always
Kim's going to LA.
Always got picked on. Like, what do you travel up the East Coast? I have traveled up and down the East Coast, and I've gone on a cruise to the Bahamas in 91. That's it.
Oh my God, that's it. And you're okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I will say the one big trip, if I could, like, it has to be a day flight because I have to see the water underneath me instead of the night, and I don't know nothing.
Okay.
It's to Greece. I would love to go to Greece.
Me too. Greece. I haven't been to Greece yet.
Greece is the only place
I've have to have a girls trip to go to Greece.
I love a girls trip to Greece.
Oh my God.
That'd be so much fun.
Oh my God, that'd be so much fun. All right, well, we're gonna stay fabulous.
We're gonna stay fabulous. But I mean, that is it. It's whatever your situation is, try to be in the moment, learn what you can from it, and make it the most fabulous, like, extroverted point. Like, you could, like, take that lesson and go with it.
Yeah.
Be in the moment. Take it for what it is and do what you can do.
And learn from it. Learn and heal. Learn and heal, y'all. Stay fabulous. We love you. Kim, thank you for coming and hanging out with me. I love you so much. Lots of hugs.
Stay fabulous.
Stay fabulous, you guys.
Thanks for joining us for a caffeinated conversation. Subscribe to Coffee with Nicoa for more stories from people living a life by design. You can also find inspiration on Instagram. Just follow Coffee with Nicoa. And check out our website, coffeewithnicoa.com. And that's Nicoa, NICOA. We look forward to talking with you soon, and enjoy your coffee between now and then.